Man, you've really, your accent's gone, or your pronunciation's...
Oh, I've never had an accent.
No?
Yeah, so that's kind of the weird part of me is so.
The WWE Universe has officially been turned upside down. What began as a quiet night filled with typical backstage chatter quickly escalated into absolute chaos. Alliances that once seemed unbreakable have shattered, egos have been crushed, and the most dominant force in sports entertainment history, Brock Lesnar, has returned to a WWE ring, not for a championship, but for something far more personal. He has come for vengeance, to destroy everything in his path, and his first targets are none other than Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. What unfolded in the subsequent moments was pure savagery, one of the most shocking and violent sequences in recent WWE history. Lesnar didn't just return to the WWE to make a statement. He stormed the backstage area, obliterating everything in his path, sending a powerful message of destruction that could be felt across the entire WWE locker room. The dressing room of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman became ground zero for a war that is far from over. The beginning of chaos. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman's mind games. To understand the depth of the violence that would soon unfold, it's crucial to take a moment and look back at the weeks leading up to this event. Seth Rollins, always a step ahead in the mind game department, had been manipulating events from the shadows. The visionary, as he's known, was orchestrating his grand scheme to bring down Roman Reigns, and he was doing so with the help of Paul Heyman, the once loyal advisor to the tribal chief. For months, Rollins had been cleverly positioning himself as a master strategist, setting traps, launching verbal assaults, and even taking cheap shots at Reigns whenever he could. But it wasn't just about personal vendettas. Rollins was playing a much bigger game. The mastermind behind this entire plot was none other than Paul Heyman, the man who had guided Roman to the top of WWE and served as the key player in his reign as the tribal chief. Heyman, known for his political savvy and unmatched manipulation skills, shocked the world when he turned on Roman Reigns. Whispering in the ear of Seth Rollins, Heyman plotted with the visionary to break apart the empire Reigns had carefully built. Together, Rollins and Heyman believed they could break Roman Reigns. With Heyman feeding Rollins valuable insight and their underhanded tactics, they believed the bloodline would eventually crumble. But they made one crucial mistake. They underestimated just how dangerous Roman Reigns truly was. Roman Reigns' counterattack. The phone call that changed everything. Roman Reigns, for all his greatness as a superstar, is also a strategic mastermind. For weeks, while Rollins and Heyman plotted behind his back, Reigns had been quietly watching their every move, gathering information, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when that moment came, Roman didn't go after Rollins or Heyman directly. Instead, he made a call that would change the course of everything. On the other end of the line was Brock Lesnar, the Beast, the man who had been one of Roman's greatest rivals and one of WWE's most destructive forces. Lesnar wasn't coming for a title. He wasn't coming for a match. No, this time, Lesnar was coming for vengeance. The moment Roman's involvement with the Beast was hinted at backstage, the entire atmosphere shifted. Superstars began whispering in hushed tones, and even the production crew felt the shift in energy. If Brock Lesnar was coming back, it wasn't for a traditional feud. It was something far more devastating. The Beast unleashed, backstage Rampage. As the lights in the arena flickered and went dark, a chill ran through the WWE universe. The crowd went silent, only to be jolted awake as the unmistakable music of Brock Lesnar blasted through the arena speakers. The atmosphere was now a volatile mixture of terror and excitement. The Beast was back, and this time, it was personal. Lesnar, unlike any other WWE superstar, doesn't waste time with theatrics. He didn't head straight to the ring. No, Lesnar had other plans. Plans that would turn the entire backstage area into a war zone. Security guards who tried to stop him were tossed aside like rag dolls. Tables were flipped, equipment cases shattered, and chaos reigned as Lesnar bulldozed his way through WWE's backstage corridors. Every man in his way was crushed under the weight of his fury, and the backstage crew scrambled to escape the path of destruction Lesnar was carving. Finally, Brock Lesnar made his way toward the dressing room marked Rollins Heyman, and with one brutal kick, he tore the door off its hinges. This wasn't just a simple attack, it was warfare. Inside, Seth Rollins, still removing his jacket after cutting a promo, barely had time to react before Lesnar kicked in the door and charged him. Heyman's face drained of all color as he stammered out the name Roman, hoping against hope that his former client would somehow intervene. But Roman Reigns wasn't coming to save them. He had sent Lesnar to do his bidding, to send a message of destruction and retribution. The carnage unfolds. Lesnar's brutality. Seth Rollins barely had time to process the situation before he was launched into a row of lockers. The sound of metal crunching under the force of Lesnar's power was deafening. Rollins, known for his resilience, crumpled to the floor, unable to recover fast enough as Lesnar picked him up and dragged him through the hallway like a rag doll. The moment that followed will be burned into the memories of the WWE Universe forever. Lesnar picked Rollins up again, this time delivering a devastating F5 onto the cold concrete floor. The impact was sickening, a sound that echoed throughout the arena, reverberating through the walls. Lesnar, seemingly unimpressed by Rollins' attempts to fight back, continued his onslaught. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman, in sheer panic, tried to make his escape. He fumbled over a gym bag, crawling on the floor as if trying to hide under a table. But there was no escaping the beast. Lesnar found him instantly, yanking the frightened man out by his collar. Heyman's screams echoed down the halls as he was dragged toward the ring, and everyone watching knew that there would be no mercy for him. The final act. Heyman's brutal end. Back in the ring, the scene grew even more violent. Lesnar wasn't finished. After tossing Heyman around like a rag doll, he lifted him high into the air and delivered another massive F5, this time onto the World Heavyweight Championship belt that had been carelessly left on the mat by Seth Rollins earlier that night. The sound of Heyman's body crashing into the gold and canvas was a brutal reminder of Lesnar's ferocity. There would be no reprieve for Paul Heyman. The Beast had made sure of that. The crowd, stunned into silence, slowly began to absorb what had just transpired. Roman Reigns, standing atop the entrance ramp, watched with a smug grin on his face. He had orchestrated this destruction, unleashing the Beast in a way that not even Lesnar's biggest rivals could have imagined. The WWE Universe had been reminded. Roman Reigns rules with fear, and when he commands destruction, he gets it. Fallout and new alliances, the bloodline's fragile state. The chaos didn't stop with the destruction of Rollins and Heyman. Triple H and a team of WWE officials rushed to the ring, immediately calling for medical assistance. Seth Rollins lay motionless backstage, while Paul Heyman was barely conscious, his suit torn, his pride shattered. The entire WWE locker room was in a state of shock, unsure of how to process the wreckage Brock Lesnar had left in his wake. Backstage, reactions were just as intense. CM Punk, watching the carnage unfold on a monitor, couldn't help but laugh darkly. "Told you karma's a Paul," he muttered under his breath. Punk had always been a thorn in Heyman's side, and now he couldn't help but take satisfaction in the chaos Paul had helped orchestrate coming full circle. But the real question now was what came next. From the deepest corners of the backstage area, Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, two more members of the bloodline, watched with unsettling calm. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They simply observed. Were they waiting for their cue to strike? Or were they biding their time, calculating their next move? Roman Reigns had unleashed Brock Lesnar, but the true fallout of this partnership was still unfolding. The bloodline, once an unstoppable dynasty, now seemed to be teetering on the brink of collapse. Reigns had sent Lesnar to destroy those who had crossed him, but the alliance between Roman and the Beast wasn't as solid as it seemed. Lesnar wasn't a man who took orders lightly, and the fragile line between cooperation and conflict could snap at any moment.